It's came and it's went. Week 1 of college football I'm talking about. But also, another week without GTD. I know you've been super sad. You didn't know what to do after last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the weekend. The long weekend with Labor Day weekend. What did y'all do without us? But we're here. We're back. It's another Tuesday. GTD's back. But Micah, like I said, week 1 of college football has started and come to an end. But that just means there's 10 more weeks to be excited for. So,
well, as a Florida fan, that makes me severely depressed.
That is true. But you are repping the Auburn year
yes.
today. So
scored 73, put up 73.
Something
Let me tell you,
to be excited for.
That was the quickest turnaround in emotion I think I've ever had. From the absolute depression of watching Miami beat our brains in to the absolute slaughtering of an HBCU. But still, a very, very good performance from the Auburn Tigers. So, very up and down day. But just like you said, so excited college football's back. Even if I did have one of the worst weekends of picks I have ever had any weekend. So...
And apart from that, I had the best weekend we've probably ever had on the show. I went 4 for 4 on my picks. I did take 3 favorites, and I took USC as the underdog against LSU. And I pretty much said just because I just don't trust LSU's defense at all. I don't trust Brian Kelly to put a defense out there. And that turned out to be pretty accurate. Now, the defenses weren't great, but Miller looked good. I know LSU, like I just said, defense isn't great, but Miller did look good. He played his butt off, and it was exciting to watch him in his post-game press conference, just living in the moment.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Miller Moss, and I was even more impressed with the USC defense. That was the main reason why I picked LSU for that game, is I thought the USC defense would be dead in the water, and they came out and actually played really well. So credit to Lincoln Riley for finding a good DC and Anton Lynn finally, and the USC defense absolutely played their hearts out. I don't think we need to talk much about the Florida-Miami game. We know what happened.
I think we do. I think we do need to talk much about it.
Billy Napier might be fired by week 3. Miami looked very good, but
Miami is your
ACC
champion. Miami is your ACC champion this year. I truly believe that. Unless Clemson can turn around, Florida State can turn around. I think Clemson has a better shot to turn it around because they did play Georgia. So we'll see how they play other ACC teams.
Well, you remember a couple years ago when Oregon got slaughtered by Georgia week 1? Like, oh no, Oregon's terrible. And that Oregon team almost made the playoff. So right. I don't think Clemson's dead yet. And if you watch that game, the first half of that game, when Georgia was trying to run up the middle, they had no offense. It took until the second half for Georgia to spread it outside before they could even really move the ball at all. So I think versus ACC teams, Clemson will still be able to have a lot of success. So I would expect a Clemson-Miami ACC championship game. And I wouldn't count the Tigers out of that game right now.
Well, the one thing I'm questioning with this Clemson team is Dabo Swinney. It seems like he really didn't make any adjustments at halftime.
I'm questioning Garrett Riley more than Dabo Swinney.
That's fair.
I trust Dabo Swinney as a coach. I don't trust Garrett Riley as an offensive coordinator. I think he got a big job upgrade based on what was maybe a flash in the pan year at TCU, and I don't think that's working out well for Clemson at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see that coaching staff make in-game adjustments, and it feels like they just made none against Georgia. And Georgia obviously did because, like you said, in the first half was kind of slow, and then they started to get in the second half. So, obviously, one of those teams made adjustments, and they ended up winning the game. So, just got to see more kind of liveliness from the coaching staff. But another game, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. A game that went the way a lot of people didn't think. A lot of people thought it was going to kind of be a horse race. But it was 23-13. Notre Dame won by 10. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts was that was a great defensive football game, and I really enjoyed it. It was a little bit of bad offense as well, and this is the one game I got right over the weekend. I said Connor Weigman would be seeing ghosts, he would throw some picks, and that's exactly what he did, and Notre Dame ended up winning that game. Great win in a hostile environment, and the rest of this Notre Dame schedule, the hardest game is at the very end of the year when they have to play USC at USC. Maybe potential trap games in Louisville and Georgia Tech, but this Notre Dame schedule looks pretty soft, so I think I'd almost be willing to pencil them into the playoffs right now.
Oh, I think with their schedule, you almost have to pencil. I mean, I said this last week when we were talking about our college football playoff predictions. I was like, Notre Dame they don't play in a conference, so they don't have to worry about a conference championship. They get one of the easiest schedules, it seems like, every year. So you got to put them in the playoffs there, and I think they proved that. Well, how do you feel about how Riley Leonard played and what he brought to the Fighting Irish offense?
I liked Riley Leonard in this offense. I think he struggled a bit to start the game, but once he got settled in towards the end of that game, kind of went into that commander role you saw more at Duke, really seemed to settle in, started finding his receivers a lot easier. And once they started working the tight end into that offense, and once they were able to work off play action once the run game got going, he looked a lot more comfortable. So I think if you can open it up with the tight end, get him more of a safety blanket, maybe run some more play action, Riley Leonard's going to be just fine.
I agree. This is far from the best game he will play all year, and far from the best game he'll have you can kind of tell first game with Notre Dame, coming from Duke last year, and it's in Kyle Field. It's a big week 1 matchup against another ranked opponent. They're favored by a little bit, so you can kind of tell he's a little nervous, kind of fitting into the scheme a little bit, not really sure what's going to happen. But as the game developed, you can kind of say, okay, they're really trusting me. I'm the play caller. They're putting it in my hands. I got to take on that role and be the leader that they want me to be. And you see he kind of started to do that. And once he did, they played much better. I feel like it moved the ball better on offense.
Yeah, definitely. So I was very impressed with Notre Dame. I think, like you said, they'll be able to carry that momentum through. And then the last team I want to talk about is not necessarily a team that played in a huge game, but how about Vanderbilt?
Yeah,
how about Vanderbilt picking up an overtime win? Congratulations, Vandy. You won a football game versus a Power 5 opponent in a season opener, something you had not done since 2006. Yeah. So congratulations to Vanderbilt Commodores. Diego Pavia looks great for them as the Auburn PTSD flashbacks to the New Mexico State game intensify. But Vandy, I think, might not be terrible this year. They might not finish last in the SEC. So
there's a good chance.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of giving out gold stars, y'all know I typically do the bat flip of the week and whatnot. But I figured today, first week of college football, I was in the student section for Auburn. And so I'm going to give out my dog of the week. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, what Auburn receiver, or is you get this, what Auburn guy is he giving this to? You're wrong. Alabama A&M's offensive lineman, number 75, Ramir Lewis. Absolute beast. He's a dog. He is 6'7", 340 pounds. He's a freshman from Clearwater, Florida. And when I tell you, he was just biting people, Auburn quit lining up against him, and he got so bored that he would just walk over to the guy next to him during the play, grab that defender, put him in front of him just so he'd have someone to block. And the one time I saw him get beat and thrown off balance, he landed on his back foot, stuck his hand into the shoulder of the defender, pushed him, and watched him do a pirouette and fall to the ground the one time he got beat.
Yeah.
This guy was so fun to watch. I've reached out to him on social media, awaiting a response. Ramir Lewis, if you're out there, I love watching you play, and I'd love to talk to you, sit down and chat with you. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, with that size and that strength, I would not be surprised at all if he's a budding NFL prospect. Looked very, very good over on the left side for Alabama A&M. And then I actually also have a dog of the week, as you called it. And
are you going to put the Ferrari shades on for your dog of the week?
No, I'm not. The Ferrari shades come later. But my dog of the week is a guy who plays safety, and his defense gave up 300 yards to a single receiver. So right off, you might not see how that's a great performance. However, Christian Ellis, the safety for the New Mexico Lobos, in a game where they got obliterated by Arizona, recorded an interception. And you might say, oh, well, interception, maybe safety, had a decent game. I can see what's happening. He also had 8 sacks as a safety in a single game. 8 sacks in a single game as a safety. I don't know if you know much about safeties. They're lucky to get 8 sacks in a full season. That would be a great season for a blitzing box safety. So to put up 8 in a single game, especially when you almost lost by 30, this is one of the weirdest stat lines I've ever seen, so I had to give credit to Christian Ellis for an outstanding performance as a box safety versus Arizona, even if the rest of his secondary was getting absolutely roasted by Teterow and McMillan.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. But moving on to week 2, we got 4 more games for y'all. Kind of a weaker week as far as matchups, if you will. Week 2 seems to always be like that, but there are a few good ones. We'll start with Texas at Michigan. Texas is only a 7-point favorite, which I think will probably change by the end of the week to Texas being a bigger favorite and Michigan being a bigger underdog. Who do you got?
Well, I don't love the Michigan quarterback tandem right now. I'm not going to lie. I was not over-impressed with the Michigan offense versus Fresno State. And it really comes down to Will Johnson can't cover everyone on this Texas offense. I like Quinn Ewers a lot. I like this Texas receiver room a lot, led by Isaiah Bond. He was incredible. I think the overwhelming talent is now with this Texas team, and I don't think Michigan has enough, even in their own stadium, to hang with Texas. As I mentioned, Davis Warren was not too impressed by him. Only threw for 118 yards. And Davis Warren is a great story, don't get me wrong. Cancer survivor, former walk-on. You'd love to see guys like that get their shot, but in a duel between Davis Warren and Quinn Ewers, I'm just going to have to take Quinn Ewers, and I think Texas might win this by 20 or more. I'm not going to lie.
No, I agree. I think Texas is a much bigger favorite than Las Vegas is letting us know right now. But yeah, Quinn Ewers, if quarterback is probably the most important position in college football, and Quinn Ewers versus Darren Warren, I mean, you're going Quinn Ewers, right? I mean, there's no question. And not to mention Isaiah Bond. I feel like he catches every ball just like in stride, out of his chest, hands so smooth. Every time he catches the ball, it's just whoop, whoop. It doesn't matter if it's like over his shoulder. He will get around it and just whoop. Like everything he catches is just perfect.
Yeah, you don't see any body catches from him.
No, he's very handsy and. Man, I love it. And the rushing game I don't think is too powerful for any of these teams to really shine.
Donovan Edwards is really disappointing, actually, in week 1 for Michigan. I thought he was going to be incredible this year and did not play well at all.
He wasn't the lead rusher on the team.
He wasn't.
Yeah, Mullings had 92 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just not what you want to see from Michigan as the reigning champs trying to defend their title, which they won't. But yeah, I mean, Texas all the way for this one. I don't think there's any chance Michigan even keeps up. Moving on to Tennessee at NC State. Another little ranked matchup, the only other one of the week as far as 2 ranked teams go. I went with Tennessee. I don't see NC State being able to keep up with them, and I think it's kind of going to be a boat race in the first half. But I think by boat race, I mean Tennessee may double NC State's points.
Well, I think all you really need to look at for this game is in week 1, NC State almost lost at home to Western Carolina, and Tennessee won by 60. So I trust this Tennessee offense a lot more. Grayson McCall, I think, is a good quarterback for NC State. You really saw the lack of Peyton Wilson in the middle on the defensive side for NC State versus Western Carolina. The athleticism at the linebacker position just is not there. The back end of this defense, I don't think, is too good, and Tennessee is going to exploit that a lot. Nico Iamaleava, I would expect to have a very good day versus this NC State defense, and I think Tennessee rolls.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. And not to mention just the rushing game. I mean, Sampson for Tennessee. He had 3 touchdowns, I think, last week. So he didn't have the yardage that screams like 3 touchdowns, but they know how to use them and when to use them, and when they do, he shines. So I really like the running game for Tennessee, and I don't see NC State's defensive line being able to really stop that. But moving on to another game, we have Iowa State at Iowa, little in-state rivalry, if you will. I feel like Iowa's been the exact same team my entire life. So everything we're about to say, you probably think we're talking about Iowa from 3 years ago, or last year, or 4 years ago. But it doesn't matter. It's all the same. So who's your pick?
Well, hold on now about talking about Iowa. They put up 40 points. Don't look at the opponent. They also had 3 receiving touchdowns by wide receivers in their Week 1 game, which was more than they did in 2022, the entire season, and also tied for how many they did last year, the entire season. So the Iowa air raid is here versus FCS opponents, but I still think they're a much better team than Iowa State. Iowa State under Matt Campbell had the great few years while Brock Purdy was there. I just don't think they're the same level of team anymore. I think Iowa is much more talented, and I would expect the Hawkeyes to get the victory this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I went with Iowa. They're 2.5 point favorite, which is really close for a game like this, but it is a rivalry. So I get it.
Rivalry tax.
But I just like you said, Iowa State had their time in the sun, and I think it's about over. I just don't think they have the talent to keep up with Iowa. Because Iowa, I mean, they do get talent every year just because they're always a top 25 team. They're close in the Big Ten, or they were close in the old Big Ten, not the new Big Ten.
Their schedule's so easy this year, though. They might be close anyway.
But I don't think the committee puts them in, even if, we'll see what happens. But you have Missouri winning the SEC, so anything could happen. But
also, my Georgia prediction, the arrest will not be affecting Georgia, it looks like, once again. So go ahead and pencil Georgia back into a playoff spot.
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyways, last game, Colorado at Nebraska. Shoot.
Nebraska.
It's the Nebraska.
Yes. Dylan Raiola. As someone called him on Twitter, I saw someone call him Patrick Mahotels, and that made me laugh a lot. I think that was very funny. But Dylan Raiola looked great. It was a UTEP, but still the accuracy looked on point, and Nebraska has more of a defense than Colorado. If Raiola, with how well he played versus a UTEP pass defense, this might be a little crazy to say, but I don't think the UTEP pass defense and the Colorado pass defense are that different in skill level. I think the Colorado offensive line is going to have a rough day. They already struggled versus North Dakota State. Nebraska's defensive line is better. North Dakota State is a very good FCS team, but Nebraska is a solid FBS Power 4 team, so I would expect Nebraska to win this. Also, playing at home, getting this game at home, that crowd is going to be ready to go. This is a renewed rivalry. We saw it last year. We saw the energy last year, and I expect Nebraska and Dylan Raiola to come out ready and win this game pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm with you. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see. Probably one of the only few. I'd love to see Shooter Sanders succeed and be the
Me too. Just not Shiloh Sanders.
And Travis Hunter. I'd love to see what Travis Hunter can do. I do think Travis Hunter needs to pick a side and just stick with it. I think it's gonna be hard to do in
And they say I'm the anti-fun one. Pick a side.
Look, I think it's great for college, but as far as him and his future, I don't think an NFL team is going to draft him saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to have you play both." It's just it's not going to happen. As far as just want him to stay healthy, whatever. But me and Micah are developing a 30 for 30 style documentary on everyone loving Dion and being on the bandwagon, and then 3 weeks later not being on the bandwagon, and then a season later everybody wanting him to lose by 100 to North Dakota State.
It's been weird how fast it's changed.
Right. Typically, like they're all divided. Like typically we're divided in things like, oh, I still love Dion. I don't like Dion. Now it's like it was like everybody loved Dion, and no one likes Dion unless it succeeds. So it's very weird, but us journalists are going to get to the bottom of it for you years. So we'll be on the lookout for that. But that's all the games we have. As far as college football go, we do have other super exciting things to talk about in worlds of motorsports. We'll start with NASCAR because they had their regular season finale at Darlington, which we talked about how Daytona should be the cutoff race, but this was still a great finale. I don't think I was that emotionally invested in a race in a while. And you may be asking, why are you so emotionally invested? Because Kyle Busch ripped everyone's heart out last night, and I'm still not recovered from it.
If you would have told 2017 Micah Farmer that I would have been, that I would have been that upset over Kyle Busch missing the playoffs, I would have said you were insane. We were both genuinely devastated watching Kyle Busch lose that to Chase Briscoe, and credit to Chase Briscoe. What I do want to say, I think races like this are what NASCAR had in mind with the win and you're in format. This is the win and you're in at its absolute best, where two guys who haven't won a race all year have overwhelming pace at the end of a race and battle it out for a win to get into the playoffs. This is what this format is at its best, and I can respect it for that. And credit to Chase Briscoe, but I wanted Kyle Busch to close in. And credit to NBC production crew, too. There was no better way to watch that than from Kyle Busch's rooftop camera, those last 11 laps, just every corner.
You could see Briscoe just right up on the wall, just narrowly touching the wall. When he got loose towards the end, getting loose. As the viewer, you're seeing all this. You don't even need... I don't even know if I heard anything the announcers were saying.
I was just so zoned in
on the back of Chase Briscoe's car and how bigger it's getting, how smaller it's getting, if it squirrels, if it hits the wall. I was so locked in, and it was great. Yeah, but another thing NBC did that I thought was great is when they found Michael Jordan and walked over to him and got that interview. That motivational speech he gave is probably top 5 in the sport of NASCAR, and obviously came from Michael Jordan. Awesome. So that was incredible. And it was Bubba Wallace's Instagram caption for his post after the playoffs. If you want something, the things you want more cost more. And that's just a great quote. I love it. Thank you for that, Michael Jordan. That pumped me up. But yeah,
is this the segue into the Bubba Wallace conversation?
Not yet. We'll get there later. But Darlington was great. Congratulations to Stuart Haas getting a win in their final season, but also making it to the playoffs and getting the regular season finale win. It was great. So credit to Chase Briscoe and Stuart Haas. Before we move any further,
credit to everyone except Gene Haas, by the way.
Right.
And shout out everyone except Gene Haas.
And we're gonna rate the burnout 6. It was okay. Not his best, but he hasn't been there in a while. So
I gave it a 7. I thought it was cool. Giant cloud of smoke when you're in burnout. And I don't know if you saw the picture that a guy on Twitter took after it of him like on the wall and getting the picture of Briscoe standing on top of the car. It was an incredible picture. But that burnout I liked a lot. I think it deserves a 7.
Yeah, the giant cloud of smoke was fun. But regular season, like we said, is over now. And your champion is Tyler Reddick by 1 point over Kyle Larson, which if you were watching the race, Kyle Larson restarted in the front row and had a bad restart on the final restart. And that really cost him the championship. If he loses one less spot, I think he lost 3 or 4 on the final restart. If he loses one less spot, or I don't know, stays on the front row, goes out and wins the race, we're not even talking about Tyler Reddick winning the championship. We're talking about Kyle Larson.
Or if there's not a giant storm system in middle America in late May.
Yeah, that too, because he did miss the whole race and still finished second by a point in the regular season.
Which is insane.
Nuts. But playoffs are set. Wallace, Busch, or Chastain. Those are the 3 guys, the bubble guys we've been talking about the last 3 weeks. Which one of those guys is going to make it?
Turns out none of them made it.
Buescher not making it. I feel like it's a crime. It is a crime. But we talked about that last week. We don't have to reopen the playoff debate. But Wallace, Busch, or Chastain out. Briscoe, Burton, Cindric in. And Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr. narrowly in, and Ty Gibbs narrowly in. The only two drivers to make it on points were Martin Truex Jr. and Ty Gibbs. Which means we had 14 different winners, which I think is, or 15 if you count Austin Dillon. But 15 different winners, 14 in the playoffs, I think it's great for the sport. I think when NASCAR wanted with this win-in-your-in situation, maybe not a guy like Harrison Burton, but a guy like Chase Briscoe, yes, absolutely. So we're going to give you all let's have the 23-11 discussion.
Yeah. So I like Bubba Wallace. I want to preface this by saying I like Bubba Wallace. I really liked him in junior categories. I think he is a talented driver. However, at some point, when your teammate is winning the regular season title and you do not make the playoffs, regardless of how many random winners are, I know he still finished 12th in points, but you have to be able to make the playoffs if your teammate is fighting for the regular season title. And credit to Bubba Wallace. He was very upfront about that. He held himself very accountable, saying, I've got to do better, we've got to do better, but I would say going into next year, there's now a lot of pressure on Bubba Wallace, and how much of it is fair or not fair from people that purely want Bubba Wallace to fail because he's, let's face it, not white. People that want Bubba Wallace to fail just because of that, which is a whole nother conversation. But if you want to prove those people wrong, you need to start running up where your teammate is running, and I don't want Bubba Wallace to get into his own head, because when Bubba Wallace is driving as well as he can drive, he is one of the I would say top 10 or 12 fastest guys in this sport and deserves that 2011 seat. I would say part of his problem is he's up against probably a top 3 driver in the sport right now, and Tyler Reddick. And we also don't know if the 2311 program is maybe a 7th or 8th place program and Bubba Wallace is just a little behind and Tyler Reddick's elevating it. We also don't know if that's the case. But I think if you're Bubba Wallace now, there's a lot of hard questions about, okay, what if this happens again next year, where do you go from there?
I agree, and it's almost the conversation we had last year when it took Daytona for him to get the playoffs last year. And everyone was saying, oh, well, here we go, Tyler Reddick's perfectly seasoned in the playoffs, Bubba Wallace out of the playoffs, and they nearly made it, shut up the haters for a little bit. But now we're back in the same conversation. And like you said, when he's great, we've seen it the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's been on form. He's been running top 5, top 10 week in and week out. But you can't do that 4 weeks out of the year. You have to do that consistently throughout the year. Yeah, you're going to miss some weeks, whatever. Maybe road courses aren't your thing, maybe short tracks aren't your thing. You're going to miss some weeks, but you can't miss 2/3 of the season and then just show up for 4 or 5 races and then expect, especially in the playoff system we have, when the last 10 races, you're not there, you're not even a part of it pretty much. So you have to just be more consistent throughout the year. And, I mean, we'll see what happens next year with him, but I feel like he's one of the drivers that's definitely on the hot seat going into next season. And who knows? Maybe he'll race that in the playoffs. Maybe he'll carry the momentum and win 2 or 3 of the playoff races. And then we'll all shut up and be like, oh, he just, maybe 2311 didn't have the cars suited for him until after the Olympic break.
I will say, there have been, I feel like, a fairly large amount of races this year where he's been taken out of things outside of his control, whether it's a random wreck or Booty Barker kind of being a moron on setup sometimes. Whether it's those kind of things, I feel like there have been multiple races where he has been maybe unfairly gypped out of pace he had. He's had no luck at super speedways this year, which is unusual for him. That's usually like his happy hunting grounds. And so for him to get caught up as many super speedway wrecks as he had, I think is really a big part of this as well. And then also it kind of just epitomizes him getting taken out, not his fault, at Darlington as well. So I don't think, while it's still not a good look to miss the playoffs at all when your teammates fighting and winning the regular season championship, when you look at it past the kind of unfortunate wrecks, I don't think it is quite as bad as it looks on paper, although I will admit it's still not good.
Yeah. But like we said, he is out of the playoffs along with Buescher and Chastain. Chastain just kind of missed all year. But we have decided to look back at our old playoff predictions and kind of rework them with the players that are in the playoffs. So we'll just look at our old ones, and I'll just give you guys that I had in the playoffs that are not in, and then we'll talk about where I had in the playoffs after Mikey goes. I had Noah Gragson in the playoffs. Granted, I knew Stuart Haas was kind of going downhill, but I didn't know it was this downhill when the season started. I didn't know they weren't going to be a team in NASCAR anymore, or they were one car team. But yeah, I didn't know all this, but I had Gragson in the playoffs. Who else? I had Busch in the playoffs, which almost happened. I had Ross Chastain in the playoffs, and I had Bubba Wallace in the playoffs. So those. Oh, and Buescher. I had Buescher. So I missed 5 guys Which I feel like with this year's not bad when you had Cindric and Burton and Suarez win a race. But yeah, I had those 5 guys in. They're out. Who were your 5 as well?
The ones that I missed were the glaring one is Eric Jones because I thought he was going to win at Darlington, which did not happen. The Toyota move for LMC did not work out at all. I missed Busch and Buescher as well. I thought they were both going to be in. I missed Chastain as well. And then I also missed Wallace. So we both missed Wallace, Buescher, Busch, and Chastain. And then I went Jones. You went Gregson for kind of our maybe more unexpected guy. But those 5, I think, if you look at that, the most shocking name is Kyle Busch. But based on pace this year, the most shocking not make it to Chris Buescher.
I agree. And I will say, I had Martin Truex Jr. missing the playoffs in this and got flamed for it at the beginning of the year.
He almost did.
Yeah, he was very close to not making the playoffs, guys.
I had him in my final 4, which I don't think is going to happen anymore.
Okay, well, so yeah, that's all right. This is what I want to get into. This is what I thought was funny. He had Martin Truex Jr. in his final 4. Could still happen. Good for him. I had Kyle Busch in my final 4. That can't still happen at all. He can win the race. Fantastic. But he can't win the final 4.
I had Kyle Busch and Chris Buescher in my round of 8, so...
I had Chastain in my round of 8. And guess who I didn't have in my round of 8? And I'm kicking myself in the foot right now. Christopher Bell, who I have right now. I'm not going to spoil anything.
I had Bell in my round of 8.
Right. So now let's look at a reworked playoffs, and we'll just kind of work our way up the ladder. So the first round, my first 4 out, 16th Burton, 15th Cindric, 14th Briscoe, 13th Suarez.
Interesting. I have 16th Burton, 15th Cindric, 14th Suarez, and 13th Ty Gibbs.
Okay.
Ty Gibbs comes in with no playoff points and also no momentum, and I think that gets him bounced early. Also, if you look at his luck this year, there's no way he survives Atlanta.
I can see that. That's why I have Suarez moving on. Ran well at Atlanta.
I thought you said you had Suarez as your 1 out, and Gibbs moving on.
Oh yeah, no, I have Suarez out. You're right. Sorry. But Cindric Burton, I don't surprise anybody. Briscoe, sometimes he's weird. Sometimes he runs well at Super Speedways. Sometimes he doesn't.
I think he's got momentum.
Atlanta's kind of a high. He's definitely got the momentum, especially for Atlanta. He's got the momentum. I mean, he's coming into it after the last.
And he likes Bristol. He likes Bristol.
That is true. So he likes Bristol, but I feel like Haas puts so much effort into winning this race just to make the playoffs. And who knows, they can go out and do this every week. But I just don't trust Haas. And I think his win is kind of just great. He's in the playoffs, but it's kind of like Cindric. He's with the team, like a premier team. But I don't see him making it past this. Whereas Gibbs, I think Gibbs is kind of going to realize, like, okay, I got to really start working, or I'm out of this thing. And the run Gibbs was on at the beginning of the year, you just felt like a win was coming. I think he gets back on one of those kind of runs here at the beginning of the year. That's why I have him moving on over Suarez and Briscoe.
Yeah, as far as my round of 12, I have Chase Briscoe out in 12th, Bowman in 11th, Logano in 10th, and then Truex in that last spot, barely missing the round of 8 and 9th. And I think Truex gets into the round of 12 virtue of winning Watkins Glen. So I do think Truex gets his 1 win in the last year of the playoffs year, gets the Watkins Glen win in the round of 16, but I do think he's bounced in the round of 12.
I have Gibbs, first one out in the round of 12. I also have Truex, Logano, and Bowman in that order. Bounced out.
We have the same first 8, just the different Briscoe Gibbs.
Right. Interesting. So, yeah, I have Truex Jr., Logano, Bowman, all bounced. Bowman, we saw him run decently for a few races this year. We saw him run great at Super Speedways this year, which with Atlanta, he could move on, but there's no Super Speedway race in the round of 8 this year. Talladega's moved. Oh, no, it's still in this year. It's next year. I'm thinking ahead. But yeah, I just have Bowman, Logano, and Truex gone. In my round of 8, first one out, William Byron is my first one out. He's a guy I have my final 4 on my preseason prediction.
He was my champion.
He just fell off a table, fell off a cliff, whatever you want to call it. Then I have Blaney bounced out, Hamlin bounced out, no shocker to anybody, bounced out before the championship round. And then Brad Keselowski, I have all the way to 5th. He's not in the championship, but he's the last car to not make the championship in mine.
That's very interesting. So we've not talked about this before just now, by the way. I have William Byron in 8th out there. I have Ryan Blaney out in 7th. I have Chase Elliott out in 6th. And then I have Brad Keselowski as the first car to miss the championship 4. I like
Brad Keselowski has secretly had a very solid year.
He has 8 top 5s this year.
Yes, he's ran well. And I mean, it's not like he's just over driving the car. I mean, Buescher ran well. It's just sad. Buescher was like
11th.
How many times was he so close to winning?
He had a stretch where he almost won 3 races in a row.
Second, or wrecked out some, but like still just hurtful for Chris Buescher. But his teammate Brad Keselowski's in the playoffs, and I think, well, you have all that R&D, you're going to put it in your Brad Keselowski car. You're not going to put it in Buescher's car because you don't need to. So I have Brad Keselowski first car out. In my final 4, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott. Those are the 4 guys I have running for the championship. I'm between 2 of them for my championship. Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick, I think, have the best shot to win a championship. I just see it. Elliott, I think, I always did put Elliott out in the round of 8, but I think he wins more. I think he wins more playoff races than maybe not Bell, Larson, or Reddick, but as far as everyone below him, I think he wins enough playoff races just to advance on wins alone, because you automatically get a bid. So I just have him in the final 4 because I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win probably 2 playoff races. We'll get into that. But Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick, because Larson, we've just seen him kind of not show up some weeks or just have a bad setup or get beat on strategy. And Bell's the same, but if you give Bell a good car, it's hard to beat him. But if I had to pick one right now, Christopher Bell or Tyler Reddick, give me Christopher Bell. Earlier, I actually told him Tyler Reddick's my champion, but give me Christopher Bell.
I don't hate that at all. And you mentioned Chase Elliott. The reason I don't have Chase Elliott making my final 4 is because of the tracks in the round of 8. Who are the best 2 drivers at Las Vegas and Homestead? Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson. I think those 2 split those 2 races. One wins one, one wins the other. I think Christopher Bell is going to be so hyper consistent he makes his way in. And we saw him win at Martinsville to make the championship award before. But I think it's Denny Hamlin that wins Martinsville this year to place his way into the championship for it. I think that's how Chase Elliott gets bounced. I just think that particular set of tracks, these other 4 are better than Chase Elliott at. But my champion of my...
a good shot to win Martinsville this year.
Oh, I think he has a good shot as well. I just think Hamlin will. I think that of this 4, Reddick, Larson, Bell, Hamlin, we know it's not going to be Hamlin because Denny Hamlin.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Denny.
I'm backing my guy. I'm backing Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick had outstanding speed at Phoenix at the start of the year. They slightly missed on the setup towards the end of the race, but I think they're going to have that car dialed in. And that was when 2311 cars weren't necessarily up front every week anyway at the start of the year.
That's what's Toyota
Yeah. Tyler Reddick has found just an insane groove recently through the back half of the season, and I put him number 1 in my post-Olympic break power rankings for a reason. He's been the most consistent, the fastest driver in the sport. And I just think he's going to bring it home. I think he's going to be your champion this year. A little bit of bias maybe as a Tyler Reddick fan.
Don't hate the pick at all.
I think he gets it done this year.
All right, and real quick before we move on to F1, because we're long-winded here with NASCAR, our Atlanta picks. We'll actually be there next weekend, like we were in the spring.
You're so back.
Very excited. Probably not going to get the finish like we got.
Imagine we do.
That would be sweet.
Kyle Busch redemption.
Well, it's too late now. It's not racing for anything except for that win streak of his. I'm going Chase Elliott. I chose Chase Elliott in the spring, and I'm going to give you the exact same reason. Atlanta, home track. He's going to win there at some point. I'm going to choose him until he wins there probably, or retires. And it may never happen, but it's going to happen, and I want to be there. So it's going to happen this Sunday.
Well, I actually have a guy who neither of us really talked about at all. I don't know if you're surprised to see him as my win pick, but I kind of got a vibe. This feels like a Brad Keselowski win. It's been a while. It's been since Darlington earlier in the year. We know how aggressive and fast Brad is at these play tracks. We know how fast Ford is at these super speedways, and playoff Brad Keselowski, I think, is going to show up this weekend. I think you're going to see bad Brad back at it, and I think Keselowski wins at Atlanta.
Part of me goes, I'd love to see Brad in an RFK car win, but the other part of me goes, well, I went to all the Talladega races in the early 2010s, so I've seen Brad Keselowski win more than any other driver I've ever seen win.
I've never seen Brad Keselowski win.
I would kind of like some variation, but I love a Brad Keselowski win because I was going to skip the school on Monday because my principal was a Brad Keselowski fan. So
really?
Yeah, if I was at Talladega and Keselowski won, my absence was excused for Talladega. So it worked out for me for some of the years.
That's incredible.
Shout out my principal, elementary school, love you, dog. But moving on to F1. we had one of the most exciting races of the year. Monza. I'm not even going to speak. Take the wheel.
Yes! 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 Charles Leclerc wins at Monza again. First time since 2019. It was beautiful. The one-stop strategy. You know what they say? If your tires are degrading, just say no. Your tires cannot legally degrade without your consent. Yes.
Right.
And the pure consistency from Leclerc in that second stint was unbelievable. McLaren tripping over themselves. Oh, we got to pit. Oh, we don't got to pit. What do we do with our two drivers? And the coach went, I'm going to just do this one-stop, drive faster, both of y'all win the race.
Which I don't think was planned. I think that was kind of...
Yeah, I think that was a mid-race audible.
Let's make it happen.
And shout out to Ferrari for actually trying something different and it working. I think Leclerc rode the crowd perfectly in that, the energy from the crowd, and just the Monza podium is the best in sports. Over the track, the sea of the Tifosi right under it. There is just nothing better than a Ferrari win at Monza. I'm so happy. This was, with Reddick winning the regular season championship and Leclerc winning at Monza, this is probably the best day I've had as a motorsports fan since Jimmy Johnson won his 7th title. It was an incredible day of racing for me. I really enjoyed it, and I can't believe Leclerc won Monaco and Monza in the same year.
Yeah,
that's still insane.
The next track that starts with Mon, you just pencil Leclerc.
Well, the problem was at Montreal, he was awful.
That is true.
So you never know. Maybe it's only every other Mon track.
Right. But yeah, great. As a Ferrari fan, more of a science guy, but he's not even with Ferrari technically anymore. We'll see.
You're a Williams fan now.
That's not getting you. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Gosh.
You have the flag already.
Yeah, I was supposed to that means stand for Williams now. Ugh, gross. Anyways, yeah, great to see just the crowd of people just flood the track, and you just love seeing a Ferrari win in Italy, especially Monza, with now both two Italian circuits. But yeah, but I do want to talk about McLaren and Lando Norris's kind of situation with the Drivers' Championship. I mean, so you said you were interested to see my point of view as a more NASCAR fan, dominant NASCAR fan, original NASCAR fan. I kind of think that McLaren should have swapped positions there.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
As just a racing fan and wanting to see better racing, and honestly, Oscar Piastri is my second favorite driver in F1 after Charles Leclerc. He's my next favorite. So from that perspective, from a race fan perspective, Oscar Piastri's movement to turn 2 at the start of the race was incredible, or in the second chicane was incredible, and I'm happy he beat Norris. From a McLaren challenging for the Drivers' Championship point of view, how on earth are you not letting Norris pass Piastri? Because you have to catch up to Verstappen as much as you can while he's finishing 6th like this. The Red Bull has fallen off a cliff. This is your chance, and you're just giving away points. It's nothing else. You're giving away points. And the speech you gave at Hungary to Norris over the radio, you're going to need Oscar later to win this championship. This is the kind of situation that I think that is directed at.
No, I agree 100%.
For you to not move Piastri out of the way, you're just throwing points away. I don't get it at all. What are you protecting? I get Oscar's first win where he had earned it. You don't want to take that away from him, but in 3 years, if Norris is a driver's champion, is Oscar Piastri going to go, I could have gotten second at Monza? Like, no. I don't get this at all. I think you're just killing your title hopes.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, Norris, he got the fastest lap at the end, so it's not like he wasn't, didn't have the pace or whatever to run second.
Piastri was faster the entire race.
That is true.
He was faster the entire race. Norris was struggling more on the tire wear.
But I think Norris was just pissed off the whole time. And when you're driving pissed off, you're gonna, do a little too hard, you're gonna hit the wall, you're gonna hit things going into pit road. It's just gonna happen. So I think, if McLaren goes, hey, Norris, yeah, we're going to work with you here. It's almost like they don't want Norris to be their top driver. It's like
it looks like they've given up on the driver's title.
Right.
They're just so concerned about, 1, winning the constructor's title, and 2, McLaren's rise on social media and growing their fan base back after the whole Fernando Alonso GP2 engine era was so much about being this fan favorite underdog and getting so many social media fans that way. And now it's almost like they're afraid to upset those people, where they're like, "Oh, we don't want to make anyone mad. We need everyone to love us," and they're afraid to make these harsh decisions, and it's just going to hurt them in the long run.
No, I agree. But moving on to Baku, I don't think y'all are going to be shocked by our podiums, but this is the most McLaren track on the circuit. So I have Lando Norris, because Lando's been, honestly, I think I've been more of the whole year, because Sainz, I loved how angry he was driving when he got the win earlier this year and everything. But Norris, you say I'm a Williams fan, I may be a Lando Norris fan next year. You know he's been my guy all year. I hopped on the Lando Norris train, putting him in my podium before that car was even great. Lando Norris has been my guy all year. I'm riding with him this week. He's going to win, hopefully just on his own, because McLaren may not even let him win if they're in a tight battle between him and Piastri. I have Piastri in second, and I have Verstappen in third. I said last week I'm going to keep choosing Verstappen until he wins because you can't keep a good driver down. But apparently, you can.
Well, F1's so car dependent.
Exactly. So it's not. They don't have the next gen car with no playability in it. So
although the aero tight is still a thing. There's that comfort of home. Aero tightness.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my podium also starts with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. I just think the McLaren's going to be incredible around here. And my third place driver is Charles Leclerc. And I do think Leclerc gets pole this weekend. Leclerc has been known to pull a random Baku pole out of absolutely nowhere. I think he does that again this weekend. He loves Baku. He's great here. He's great in Azerbaijan. I just don't think that car has enough to win on pure pace versus a McLaren at Baku. I think the Monza crowd wave was just a lot of why Ferrari was able to win that, and the excellent strategy. I don't think you can count on that 2 weeks in a row. So even though I would say this is one of Leclerc's best tracks on the calendar, I think the McLaren's just too fast. I think Leclerc comes home third.
I don't think you can count on Ferrari good strategy 2 times in a year. Not 2 weeks in a row. 2 times in a year.
They did it 2 weeks back to back in Zandvoort and Monza. Come on. And Zandvoort just wasn't high profile.
Exactly. That's their 2 weeks, man.
Oh, you're like they've used it up already?
Expensive.
It's all gone.
Lastly, we'll go into MLB. We really don't have a whole lot to talk about next week. And the following weeks, we're going to really start getting into playoff battles and playoff races with that
What's a playoff?
Yeah, as a Reds fan. I'm going to preface what I'm about to say by saying I'm not going to be the guy saying, oh, Cubs we're making it to the playoff. We're going to be that final wild card spot who's made it to the World Series, and we're in the World Series.
Spoiler, he's about to say exactly that.
I'm still kind of leaning towards the Cubs don't make the playoffs this year, just because while we're winning, so are the Mets and Braves. Now, the Phillies did help me out a little bit, but not as much as I would have liked as far as beating the Braves. So the Cubs finished the road trip, scored 89 runs on the road trip, lost 1 game on the road trip, they lost to the Marlins. But whatever, 89 runs, scored 14 or more runs 4 different times on the road trip. That is insane. That's incredible. And PCA is the most fun player in baseball. I almost said funnest player in baseball. He's the most fun player in baseball, fastest guy in baseball. He's a Reds fan. You put him and Ellie De La Cruz on a full season with the same on-base percentage, PCA steals more bags. Don't even argue with it.
I agree.
You're wrong.
As a Reds
this guy
fan,
agrees.
As a Reds fan, as a massive Ellie fan, I agree.
Watching pitchers crap themselves on the mound with this guy on first base, knowing he's about to steal third from first base, is incredible. They throw it away when they're trying to pick him off. The catchers are freaking out. He can't pitch because he's trying to do a pitch out. They threw a pitch out and he still stole second on a perfectly executed pitch out, and he was there. This guy is incredible. Scored from third on a soft comebacker to the third baseman with the infield in. That doesn't happen unless you're PCA.
It looks like 2014 Billy Hamilton learned how to hit.
Right. And I love this guy. And he did learn how to hit. 319 in the month of August. 933 OPS in the month of August. He's coming. If he had hit like this all year, Rookie of the Year would have been done 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an insane run from him. I hope he can keep it up. I love you, PCA. You're my dog.
It's because he got rid of the blue hair. As soon as the blue hair was gone, he just...
Blue hair was gone way before he learned how to hit.
Really? I thought it was closer. Okay.
There was a stretch where he still couldn't...
Okay, I thought he got rid of the blue hair and immediately just caught fire.
Yeah.
But
don't change anything. Don't dye your hair. Don't change your earrings. Don't do anything. Just
he's been incredible. It's been really fun to watch.
Keep lighting the T-Swift candle in the locker room. Greg Council seems to enjoy that. And it's weird seeing Greg Council smile, but I kind of do enjoy it. So let's keep making that happen.
Speaking of not smiling, the Reds...
That's it.
Can we fire everyone?
But that's all we have for y'all this week on GTD. Make sure y'all tune in next week. Like we said, get into more playoff stuff for Major League Baseball. College football is going to keep on rolling. Playoff start for NASCAR. We'll be at the race. We'll probably get some footage for y'all there. And F1's getting super exciting again. So, adios.